Hi Anna, thank you so much for joining me on this little mini video series, which is really about just talking to event professionals from all over the world and finding out how they're coping and some of the practical things that they're doing to get through this period of time. Because as you know, and actually, how did we meet? And it was on LinkedIn, wasn't it?
LinkedIn, yeah. I think you joined the LinkedIn
Yes.
redundancy group with me to offer content.
Yes, exactly. So that's that's how we met in the first place. But I think, what's interesting, I think the more open, as challenging as it is, people are during this period of time about how they're actually getting through it and sharing some practical stuff that other people can also learn from. And it might be comforting, motivating, and not in a kind of weird social media pressure way. Getting people to do things they don't really want to or can't do at this time. So introduce yourself, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name's Anna Marie Trzebinski, as you know. I've been in the events industry for just over 10.5 years now. My experience has been really broad, really very much 360 of the events industry. I've been client side, I've worked freelance, and I've been on agency side across many different industries, including financial, fashion, technology, and most recently, prime real estate.
Right, so you mentioned that you set up your LinkedIn group for redundancies. Tell me a little bit about why you set that up, because that grew really quickly, which was, for a number of reasons, obviously very, apart from the obvious COVID situation, but quite telling in terms of how many people wanted to talk to and share resources with other people in similar circumstances.
Yeah, sure. So I was unfortunately let go right at the beginning of March. It was about 3 days before the furlough scheme came into place. Unfortunately, I haven't been supported in furlough, so I have been put into a position where I've been let to fend by myself, which I kind of reacted to in my own way, which is just very looking at as many positives as I could. What could I do to help? I did want to go into volunteering for the NHS, but I'm currently pregnant as well. So I couldn't do that. And I just thought, how can I help the industry? And I set up a group, UK Event Professionals Redundancy. It's on LinkedIn. I set it up on Saturday, and by Monday morning we had 6 members.
And
actually I was really pleased with that, because the 6 members that were on at that time, immediately there was a lot of engagement, which I really tried to encourage through the about and the about section and the posts so far. And today we have 110 members, and it's growing quite consistently, but it has taken a lot of effort. I think people are, initially quite shy and also don't want to be too public. You have to build their confidence about sharing their experience and sharing their situation. So it's slowly getting there, but we've got some really vocal people on the group now, and I think everyone's really starting to feel more like a community.
Absolutely. And I love that. I absolutely love that, because community is really important anyway. But I think in times like this, this whole situation, some of the observations that I've had is that, before this, people were able to hide behind or leverage or benefit from job titles, for example, whereas this currently that is all gone and disappeared. Even if you're on furlough, you may not even have a job anymore, and suddenly there was this kind of democratizing of the industry, in that everybody's kind of in a similar situation. And there was a very real, consequence, which is that people have no income for some people, or it's massively reduced, and the impact that can have on your day-to-day life. But having said that, it's really difficult for people in general to talk about money and to talk about struggling with money or being worried or anxious about how you're going to make a living. So that's what I liked about, I guess the tone that you set for the group was all about openness and sharing and it being a safe space.
Yeah, and that is exactly what it is. It's we hold a coffee morning every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and that has very much become an informal chat, really.
Yes.
With as a group on the call. You've been on the call.
Yes.
Thank you, Ashanti. And it's slowly grown. It started about 40 minutes. Now it's up to an hour and a half as of this week, because we have introduced a new guest speaker every week.
Yes.
And they are kindly offering their content for free, their advice. We've had life coaches, recruiters. We've even had an event agency as of last week that are just really thrilled about the group and really want to add some insights to kind of the position from a small business, what
Yes.
they're doing for the future, how they're positioning themselves, and they've been very forward in bringing as well their resources really at the moment, making sure that they're being put to good use. So it's really good to chat and speak with everybody.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think there's two kind of really relevant pieces there: the community aspect that you have worked really hard to create, but also, you know, the coffee morning is really now a virtual event, because something like this, like a coffee meetup or whatever, would have happened in person, you know, before, in some way, in a canteen, in a breakout area, or a local coffee shop. And now obviously it can only happen online. And yet, even with that, I see and hear people come off those calls feeling encouraged, feeling motivated, having learnt something new. So what has running a virtual coffee morning, how's that been for you as the host, and how have you found like nurturing the community?
I would say it's actually been really relaxing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the wrong word, but for me, it, like you said, it's about connecting with people. And most recently, I think it was at the end of last week, it really did move me, because there were about 2 or 3 people in the group that have been there since the very beginning. They're very active members now, and they made public posts sharing the group and saying how they do feel they've made new friends, even though it's digital faces and they've never actually met, but we just feel like we've really connected and we do know each other. So there's definitely going to be meetups when this is all over, and I do see the group kind of continuing post this, almost evolving to be that community that can recommend. And the whole point was that when people do start getting jobs, they can say that they've got to know over the last 6 weeks an operations director or a logistics manager, and say, actually, I know a great person that can fill that role, and they can also help them get the right role for them quickly. So
yeah, I love that. And in terms of the other question I had for you was, that's it. So, you know, you and I had talked offline about, you know, I guess the awareness of not being not using, I guess, pressure or crowd pressure for people to be doing things during this period of time. You know, you don't have to learn another language, you don't have to suddenly do something. You know, if you are just being and existing in a healthy way that works for you right now, that is also okay. But the other side of that is the fact that if you are in a position to, or you want to, it's a great time to do some things you really wanted to do, or prepare yourself for post-COVID employment, for example. So what practical things have you been doing that you can share with other people, you know, that have helped you develop during this period of time, and you know, they could try as well?
Sure. So to pick you up on your first point there, I can agree with you more. And nobody's the same at all. Today I had one member, and she's posted that she's now learning Spanish and doing a nutrition course on the Open University, which is fantastic. But I also have maybe 2 other members that I'm 100% sure I'm kind of keeping in contact with them, because they've gone a lot quieter since. They have phases, and all they need is a touch base or a nice friendly coffee chat just about how the week's been. And there's noticeable differences, but I think, yeah, the routine is the thing that you really need to keep in place with the timings. That's important to me. If I'm sleeping past my alarm clock, then that puts my day out.
Yes, yes.
And last week I kind of established that I wasn't progressing on the most important projects to me. So I've really looked at that list of what I need to get done and planned that as a time into the daily week. What I'm finding at the moment is it's a bit of a teething time, so that might need some movement. It might even need to move on to a fortnightly schedule rather than a weekly. But I think that's definitely going to help me progress in the areas that I really want to.
Yeah.
And I think that helps.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, again, can't agree more. I think having a degree of routine and structure to your day is important in general. And at the same time, understanding that there needs to be some flexibility, because there are moments and days when you're just not feeling it that way. So to force yourself to do all of these things is not the best thing to do. So, and I think, that's a new state of being for some people, like just managing uncertainty in a positive way, in a kind way to yourself, that is, so that you don't have a complete meltdown.
Definitely.
Because of, expectations that really you're putting on yourself, or you're perceiving through online conversations, etc.
Bringing up that, actually, I was on a webinar the other day, and it was an Instagram live, and somebody made a comment about how they were enjoying Instagram, but they found the LinkedIn platform too competitive. And my response to that would maybe be, it's as competitive as you want it to be, and as you want to see it to be. Because really, I think the vibe out there at the moment, there are people that have been furloughed for 6 weeks. There have people that have been let go for 2 weeks. Everybody's at a different stage. And the longer you are in that position and you go to more webinars, you will get more confident. And it's really just a vibe that everyone's trying to help everybody. So the content shouldn't really be seen as competitive, but is this useful to me? Should I look at this page? As well as not liking things and not clicking on what actual content is, because what's the point?
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting as well? That I think that we were probably on the same webinar, because I saw that, I heard that comment, and that also got my attention as well, because as everybody probably knows, I am an avid LinkedIn user and advocate, and I found that to be quite interesting, because for me, one of the things that the two things that, out of everything I do, the framework that I've created for clients is about collaboration and community. And I think that is as much about perspective. So I did wonder to myself, well, who are you following? Because I don't have anyone in my network that I feel that I am competing with.
I wouldn't say I'm competing with people. I would say there are a couple of people out there that, and it's no fault of their own, is also having very good algorithms. They appear a lot on my wall. And I thought, to be honest, that I didn't appear very much. And this morning I was told by somebody that I'm always on their wall, which is great, actually, because I thought my algorithm was terrible. But I think it's just kind of looking, like you said, at that angle. They're not posting to push you down, they're posting to help, they're posting to try and get themselves out there. Maybe actually they're secretly going, oh, I don't know if I should post this. Am I posting too much? I'm not sure, but I'm going to give it a go. And I think everybody is learning and everybody is trying.
It's really interesting as well, because I always think it's really important, and for me, I've learned a lot from looking at parallel industries, about how they're using the same tools, same methods, but just in their industry. And it's funny, it may not come as a surprise, I suppose, but at the same time, when you look at, for example, anybody who's in business development or sales, frequency is like a key part. Repetitiveness, frequency, and routine is what makes good salespeople, whatever business that you work for. And so they use LinkedIn across any industry, and the whole idea is to be as visible as possible. Of course, being visible with like useful stuff is the best option. So it's really interesting, because if you don't post, no one will see your posts.
exactly.
regardless of what you're sharing. Like, it's just a thing. So it's very weird that you bring up that same thing, because I literally was on the live as well thinking competitive. I would have thought that maybe Instagram and other places where people
I would agree
themselves.
too, actually, Instagram. But it is also obviously really interesting that there are those people out there that feel that LinkedIn is competitive. And of course it is, because every platform is, but and those people need to kind of nurture their development as well on the various platforms if they want to use them. I personally think LinkedIn is fantastic, and it's been my real strength through this whole period, because it's allowed me to connect to the industry. How else would I do that? I don't know. I don't find Facebook is exactly the same. You have to connect to a group, and then you know, it's very different, but you've got a whole industry out there. You've got search options, you've then got individual niche groups, and I think it's a really, really good platform
for that. I do as well, and actually that's a great point for anybody who's listening, you know. And what I like about LinkedIn as well is that, and that's, you know, I suppose for me, I love the fact that it's a professional network, and so therefore it's totally okay to talk about what you're doing professionally, you know. You can do that on Facebook or Instagram, but at the same time, a lot of people on Facebook and Instagram for recreation. They're not there necessarily to hear about your latest project at work, you know. So, you know, so anyway, I think it's really important point that you've raised about that. I mean, let's be, you know, we've got a few more minutes maybe. Let's talk about that element of competition, because I think, again, it's another topic probably that people are not always comfortable talking about. And that individual brought it up on the live. You know, how do you feel about competition, or how do you perceive it? Especially
that's actually really interesting, because I've actually got a background in fashion styling, which actually I'd like to say now I was very successful in, but at the time I gave myself a hard time. I also got to the point where I was doing great work, not always getting paid great, so that became the problem. The reason I mention that is because I've always been somebody that networks, meets people in the industry, likes to collaborate, likes to pass work on if I can't do it, or if it's suitable to me. That builds my network. It builds, to me, my success of my brand. And I think the wider network you have, the more successful you're going to be. And I genuinely love my clients. I love working with various different creatives. I've had experiences on a negative side of that and a positive, and I've come across and worked with people that really don't think in that way. I've passed them work, or I've worked with them, and then I've found that they're either trying to cut me out, or they're scared that my work might be better than theirs, or something like that. It's really not about that. I think you just need to look to be the best version of yourself. Can't worry about the competition. People started their companies and their brands 50 years ago. They started their brands 30, 20, 5 years ago. Somebody that started their brand 5 years ago might actually be more successful than somebody 20 years ago, but their brands are completely different. So I think stop comparing yourself to other people would be my advice. And just try and be the best you can be. And if you've got that mindset and you're positive, then I really don't see how you can go wrong if you keep yourself working hard.
No, absolutely. And I love that about the kind of not comparing yourself to other people. That usually helps, at least, you to kind of, I don't know, contain maybe doubts or fears, or uneasiness about what somebody else might appear to be achieving, because I think that's what it also really comes down to. One of the things I think is really great about the events industry, it makes a massive contribution to the economy. It really is a huge industry. At the same time, it's made up of a lot of contractors and freelancers and stuff like that, which you wouldn't necessarily detect from the outside. But there's a lot of people who are running their own businesses, or they're self-employed, and they're working in the industry and making money, which shows you that actually there's nothing to be worried about in terms of competition, because there's enough work. And in fact, people are creating work for themselves. That's the whole nature of an event. If a company, person, organization decides to put an event on, that in itself creates jobs and stuff that they need to contract in, that they need to get suppliers for. So I don't know, I see that as a positive, that it's not an industry that is so restrictive and closed in that way that absolutely nobody else can flourish or enter into the market.
Exactly. And there's so many different industries, you know, that are competitive. Fashion, I've had my experience in. We've got events, you know, sports, you know, even looking at the niche of yoga, the amount of people that I know that are trained and they're building their brand. But, you know, I have a very good friend 5 years ago. She started her own yoga brand. And I'm blown away with her following and her posting and her marketing. She's just doing what she loves. She's being her as well. And she has made a successful brand of it. But when she started, there were so many other people out there that were huge. She could have said, oh, I can't be like them, or I can't do that. She's not like them. She's just made her own way through. And that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. So I'm starting my own events brand. AMT events. I'm working on the business plan at the moment. I've now got a logo. I'm sorting out my website, and I'm just really excited really for the future, because I think there's a lot of negativity out there at the moment, and you just looking at the future and the current situation and what's been happening in the last 6 weeks, you can't let yourself get down by that. You've just got to look forward. I'm having exciting conversations. Lots of people are looking at collaborative projects, which is really great. Ashanti, I've met you. Yeah.
It's a positive, well, it can be a positive time. And I don't mean to say that in a woo-woo way or to minimize some of the actual real impact this is having on everybody, and some maybe more than others. So it's not to be dismissive of that, but at the same time that there definitely is like opportunity is the word.
Of course. I mean, looking at my situation, I've been let go, and I was unemployed, and I'm 5 months pregnant currently. So, you know, I'm definitely not being dismissive. It is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but if you want to move forward, and if you decide, given the reflection time, that you still want to be in the industry, then, you know,
you can
make the path and make the plan.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Anna. I think this will be really helpful to people, and we're going to make sure that all of your contact details, the link to the group as well, is available for people to come and join. Fantastic. Thank you.